Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Look Up podcast with your favorite hosts, Alani, and
Roman Downing. How are you doing?
we are excited to be with you again today.
Definitely. My birthday just passed. We just came off of vacation.
I know.
So we are rejuvenated.
Feeling good, ready to go on the next trip. And yeah, we're here today.
Where's the next trip?
I don't know yet. I mean, we have Hawaii booked later in this year, but we want to go somewhere probably within this next month and not sure yet because my birthday's coming up. I'm a May baby.
Gemini.
And I do not know yet what I want to do. So we'll update you as that kind of comes around.
Right.
But today, what did we want to talk about today? What's been going on in your mind? What have you been learning about in school? What have you been reading? What have you been, anything that's on your heart and on your mind?
Honestly, today specifically, I've just been feeling blessed, man.
Yeah.
I think I've learned to really love where I'm at in the moment.
That's really good because that's very can be sometimes very hard to do, especially in today's world.
Oh yeah, 100%. So just being grateful for what I do have and what I do have going on in my life, because I think a lot of the times we all get like this and we start thinking about where we want to be and the fact that we're not where we wanted it to be, right? And I always told myself, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I turn 28, right? And obviously that has not happened yet. And I kind of, sometimes I beat myself up for some of these things. And sometimes I'll look at my peers and stuff like that, not to touch on comparison again, but I'll look at my peers and I'm like, man, look how far ahead they are. And I don't know, today I woke up feeling good, feeling blessed, and just thankful to God for what I do have and what he has given me and what he has blessed with me today. So that's how I'm feeling right now. Maybe we can talk about that.
Good. Yeah. Feeling blessed, feeling grateful.
Yeah.
It's important.
How about you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I was just sharing with you, obviously, before we just went on air, on live, that what I was reading about this morning of just doing everything to the glory of God. And I know we have that on one of our vision boards, that Bible verse. It's like, whatever you do, do all for the glory of God. And I think I guess maybe tying into what you're talking about, like looking at your life and being like, oh, I'm not where I want to be. But, what you are doing now, you have to remember it's not necessarily for you, but
Right.
to advance his kingdom and to glorify him, to worship him. And the book I was reading, she was talking about the story of Joseph, right? And you know how Joseph, the infamous story of how his brothers, I guess he had a dream and he said, hey bros, I had a dream. I was like a corn stalk and you guys were other corn and you guys were like bowing down to me. And they were like, what the heck? No, I'm not going to bow down to you. And they're like, they all said, we got to get rid of this man's. And they said, let's throw him in a ditch. And then that didn't work out. Then they said, let's give him, sell him as a slave. And so he was a slave. And the point is he was not just a slave, but he was a great slave. You know what I mean? Like
he was goated.
He was goated. Like he did everything the master wanted. He was like working so hard and he was worshiping God the whole time. And he was worshiping God in front of everyone around him. And then obviously that got him promoted to be like head of the slaves and stuff in the prison and whatever. Before he went to prison, head of the little slaves. And then the king's wife said, ooh, I like you. Let me get with you. And then, Joseph being a great man said, no, I honor you. So she came to her husband and was like, Joseph tried to bang me. And he said, and, the husband, Potiphar, was like, okay, you're going to jail. But even in prison, he was a great prison mate and all of this good stuff, like worked super hard, did all the good things. And a lot of times, like we can even think in our life, well, if I'm not going to get paid for it, then I'm not going to do it. Or if I'm not going to get a reward for it, well, I'm not going to do it. But again, it's not because of you and your selfishness. It's always to glorify and worship God. And so as he was a prison mate, there was these two other people that got sent to prison and they were having like bad dreams. And Joseph, doing something way more than his job was in prison, was he started helping them and trying to decipher their dreams. And they did it so much that ultimately when the king had dreams, Joseph became his right-hand man. And then next thing you know, it came full circle and his brothers came back and, that vision he saw of them basically begging for mercy and they were in a famine and begging for food.
Yeah.
So moral of the story is that in every situation he was in, I mean, he could have had so many excuses, and I know I have, especially in past jobs I've worked at. Like,
Oh
if they ain't
yeah.
gonna pay me for it, I'm not doing it. I'm not staying after, not coming early. You better, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so easy to have that mindset because it's easy to be selfish and easy to be so focused and wrapped up on what you're gonna get out of everything and what would benefit you. But with Joseph, it was just all about what can he do to constantly glorify and worship God. And she was talking about, like, she was giving different scenarios, and she's like, well, what if you did go to every single dinner party that your coworkers invited you to, and you not only just showed up and not be so concerned that, well, you're not getting paid to go to this dinner party,
Right.
but you just showed up and maybe you brought some great bread, like those type of relationships that you can get built. And again, the book How Not to Save the World, that I'm reading by Hosanna Wong, is all about of just how you can be that, kind of like what we were talking about last episode, that evangelist. But sometimes people are like, well, I don't know how or where to start. And it's sometimes doing those little things and then, you know, being able to worship God and all of that. I mean, it's not being, sometimes people are like, well, I don't want to not be myself and just focus on my faith when I meet someone. And also
Right.
people are like, well, I don't want to just come off as super pushy either. So how do I do that? And it's just doing what you can do already really well and glorifying God.
Yeah,
What do you think on that? I just thought that was so good because
it is.
I've just been so guilty my whole life of, if it isn't gonna, you know,
It is. I think
benefit me, I'm out.
A couple things I actually take from that, Joseph's story
Yeah.
is that, whatever situation that you're in, whatever situation he was in, he knew the priority, right? It didn't matter if he was
right.
he understood the assignment. You know what I mean? Joseph understood the assignment, no matter what position, bruh.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
You can look at it in, that term I think first came to prominence. Understand the assignment with like actors. Like there was a lot of actors that maybe didn't have the main role in the movie, but they understood the assignment. Like they were the best part of the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think it's the same thing with Joseph. It's just like, yeah, he was a slave, but he understood the assignment. You know what I mean? Yeah, he was, a prisoner, but he understood the assignment, right? And kept faith and just knew what God he worshiped in any situation. And I hear pastors say this all the time, like, if you gonna sweep floors and be a janitor, be the best janitor that you can be. Be God's best janitor. If you gonna be an accountant, be God's best accountant, right? You know what I mean? And it's just like, I think sometimes we get caught up in the worldly stuff when we forget who we're serving and who we are actually employed by, right? Because maybe it's not
who we're actually employed by.
And maybe you weren't meant to go sweep up trash, but maybe it wasn't the trash that you're supposed to be taking care of. Maybe it's that dude that's in the office that's broken down and stressed and having marital problems and something like that. And maybe it's just you having a word with them and speaking with them and saying, you know what, I'm praying for you, man. I don't know what you're going through. I don't even know your name, but I see you sometimes. You look a little stressed out. I pray about you sometimes. You know what I mean? Even something small like that can just be a game changer, right? And I'm pretty sure there's stories like that all around the world where the guy started out as a janitor and now he's the CEO of the company. And all it takes is just those small little things. And Joseph, that is the story of Joseph, right? Starts out as a janitor and becomes the king right-hand man. So
I think it's just because he wasn't ever going in, even though he had that dream in the beginning, he never went in doing each of those assignments, as you call it, like knowing he was going to be king. He just did it just to be a good Christian person, a follower of Christ, and to just show
of God.
What she was also bringing up a really good point, that imagine if us Christians were just so hardworking and so kind and so encouraging in all of our areas, like we could truly change this world.
Oh yeah.
But we get so caught up in, like what you were saying, the worldly patterns where it's like, well, this person isn't working that hard at their job. Well, I'm not going to do it then either. Or this person was kind of rude to me at the store, so I'm going to just, be nonchalant, kind of rude too. And, it's just little things like that, right? All those little things that add up. that take you down that worldly pattern rather than following that true path of light and goodness. Because I think if we did that more often, it's like that whole butterfly effect too. I think if we showed that to others and then they show that to others and they show that to others, and remembering that if we're just showing love and giving love and God is love, we're opening the hearts of other people to feel God's love and to
Right.
really understand of who God's love is. I just remember too, like some of those stories. I don't remember what story it was, if I was reading it, listening to it, if it was in a movie. Maybe you'll know if I start explaining to it. But they're just like, I've never before been a Christian, but like, oh, and Pastor Judd in last church service. Remember that one man who was in prison? And he was like a robber, and he like robbed this family and was never like, he was born an atheist. His dad was an atheist, but the family that he robbed ended up building a relationship with him and was just so kind to him. Maybe they brought up church or something. I mean, up to a point where they say they go to Central, but I don't think they ever like forced God down his throat or anything, but they were just so kind to him. And he said that that kindness that he shared, they told me they went to Central Church. I just wanted to figure out why they were so nice.
Right.
And that little thing where it's like, did they have to be super nice to him? Absolutely not. Like they had every right in their heart to be angry or hurt, but again, like they weren't conformed to the patterns of the world.
Right. Turn the other cheek. And now that man, he goes to Central, got baptized.
Isn't that crazy? Like
He
there's
is a
stories like that,
believer.
I feel like all the time.
Yep.
Because of just the kindness of someone else led them to find God again.
Right. We get caught up in ourselves. We get worldly, man, and we forget.
Exactly. Kind of like what you were talking about, like right at
Yep.
the start of this, where it's just like you're so focused on, well, I have to be a millionaire by 30 because there's so many people on social media that are millionaires before
Right.
they're 30.
But you already blessed.
Right.
You already
And
blessed.
you can already do so much with what you do have.
Right. You are blessed to be a blessing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say at Central. You're blessed to be a blessing to other people. And that can look a million different ways. It doesn't have to be gifting a car. It doesn't have to be, giving
Yeah.
someone a check for $100,000. It could be something as small as just
Listening
being
to
nice,
them. Yeah.
listening to them.
Saying hello.
Saying hello.
A warm smile.
Mhm.
A hug,
Asking someone, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Or even just, finishing the conversation with God bless.
Mm-hmm.
I see that light people up all the time when you finish a conversation. God bless you today, by the way.
That's so nice.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I think those things are so important, 100%. And then I was reading when I listened to the audiobook of How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. And that honestly reminds me of that book of just like, it might not be your job, but it's your assignment.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It might not be your job right now to step out and lead from the front and do the things that maybe isn't in your job title.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how you lead when you're not in charge.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, they wait for the title
Right.
before they try to do the responsibilities. And it's just like, well, I'm not a boss yet, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Well, I don't have employees yet, like a small business owner like us. I don't have employees yet, so I don't need to have leadership qualities. I don't need to read books every day, and I don't need to grow myself as a leader because I don't have employees. I'm not leading anyone. And he was just talking about in the book how that's just an irresponsible way to live your life. And you will wait forever for you to get that title or that position or that position of authority if you're not leading now where you are.
Right. And same thing too, I feel like when it comes to Christianity, where it's like, well, I'm not a pastor, so I don't have to pray over people.
Right. He mentioned that in the book too. He mentioned that in the book too. Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they're like, that's for
like the holy or holy people.
Yeah, that's for holy people. That's for people with
that's like a holy roller.
That's people with church titles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's for a ministry partner. That's for the pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like that whole serving and stuff. That's for
Right.
like the church stuff, Yeah. It's easy to easily like put off that, I guess, responsibility when you were, I almost want to say gifted and blessed with it too. That you can do all of those same exact things. You don't have to be placed in any type of position or title or anything.
Your pastor was not like selected and anointed by hand
and
by
has
God.
like the most special relationship.
Right. He has a special connection with God that you don't have.
No.
Right? He has the power to bless people and to pray over people and send people to the afterlife.
Well,
all
it's
you
just
can
like
do is attend church.
in the Bible, I'm reading through the book of Acts right now, and it's basically like the stories of Paul and all of these other disciples going out and like basically doing what Jesus did. And they weren't Jesus, obviously. They aren't Jesus, but they were able to go and do and teach and literally heal people
Perform miracles
through
Yep.
Jesus Christ. So again, it's because their individual relationship that they had. And people were saying like, oh my goodness, it's like more gods from heaven and stuff. And they were trying to sacrifice like animals to them. And Paul's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Like, we're not a god. And again, it's just saying that anyone can truly do what I think we look at as so special and so anointed and so great, that we each have it in ourselves to be able to do that because we have a relationship and can have a relationship, if you don't have one yet, with Jesus and through God. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And I think a lot of people, myself, because I know I say I think a lot of people, but I know that myself, sometimes I think that you need to have this huge reservoir of like holiness or faith to even just be on that level of Paul or be on that level of, Peter and like all of these great disciples and stuff like that to even like, if I put my hands on this blind man, he is not going to see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was watching this video from Mike Todd, and they always ask him, well, where do I start with crazy faith? Where do I start? And he's like, what a lot of people don't know is that crazy faith always starts with baby faith, right?
Right.
Where you have faith as small as a mustard seed. And the mustard seed is one of the smallest seeds in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have enough faith that's just as small as a mustard seed, you can tell that mountain to move.
Mm-hmm.
You can clear that mountain out of your way. And maybe it's not the mountains that you think of, like Mount Charleston or Mount Everest, but maybe it's the mountain of insecurity. Maybe it's the mountain of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the financial mountain.
Right.
Maybe it's whatever mountain that you're facing.
Right.
If you just have a little bit of faith, you
Right.
can tell that mountain to move and go jump in the ocean.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's what we need to go out and be good disciples, is just have a little bit of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have any faith that if I put my hands on you, you'll be healed. There's none there. But even if I had a little bit, that it could happen.
Right.
It could happen.
That's so wild of how, I guess the word I really can only think of is just how powerful faith is.
Yep.
That you don't need a lot of it to do such huge, significant things. Kind of like what I brought up in the last podcast. Like, you don't have to do something super great to have significance, or have something super great to have any type of impact. It's just that little bit.
Right.
And just being obedient to that little bit of faith.
I think faith can also sometimes be translated as belief in the word. And I think that's why it's so powerful, because it's backed by
Wow.
the word.
Wow.
And the word,
And not just like a hope, kind of like,
No.
I wish, or like wishful thinking
no,
kind of.
it's based
yeah.
off of that real.
Yeah.
The thing that was there from the very beginning was
God's
the
word. Mm-hmm.
Before
Mhm.
anything exists, the word existed.
Right.
And I think that's why faith is so powerful, because it's belief in something that's existed before the beginning of time even existed.
Mm.
Mm,
Deep.
dang. We just broke through another dimension, y'all. That's good. But anyway.
That is good.
I forgot what I was going to talk about. It was something really good.
Oh, was it about
But-
being like grateful and stuff like that?
No, it was something else that was going to tie into that, but we can just move on. It's all good.
Yeah. We got our dog over here.
We got Audie over
You
here.
may have seen her just running around by our feet. We always have to give her like a bone or something to chew on, so
Right.
she's not interrupting us crying. And she just kind of came over here right now, so I was just a little
So
hesitant.
We're kind of nervous.
Our eyes are shifting,
Oh,
waiting
goodness.
for her
Yeah.
to jump on it. But
But no, she's a part of this podcast very much as
as we are,
we are. Right.
third
So,
host,
our
Audemars
third
Pickwet
Audemars
Downing.
Pickwet Downing, right. That's right. If we're even pronouncing that right. But I was listening to Jay-Z the other day.
Love this.
With you.
Love it.
speaking of Audemars, I was listening to Jay-Z the other day, And there was a line that he said that I thought was really
Oh,
profound.
in his new song?
Yeah,
That just,
neck
okay.
and wrist.
Yeah.
And he talks about, he says, y'all spend real money on fake jewelry, shockingly. Or y'all spend real money on fake watches, shockingly.
You just said fake things or fake stuff.
I think he said fake watches.
All right. Gotcha.
But
I'm gonna look it up.
do the research real quick. But it made me think, I'm just like, man, people really do spend real money on fake things. And it's just like, why settle for the fake thing when you can buy the real thing? And I think that sometimes that translates.
You're right. It
over,
is watches.
It's watches.
Okay.
And that translates over to all these watered down versions of the Bible, these watered down versions of what Christianity really is.
Ooh.
And they buy the fake stuff.
What do you mean? Elaborate.
They buy into the fake stuff. I'm not bashing nobody's church. I'm not bashing nobody's religion. But I'm just saying, there's some people out there that have the Michael version or the DeAndre version or whatever the name of your pastor is, their version of the Bible. And it's watered down and tailored to what they want you to believe and what they want you to think. And I think there's even other religions out there that do the same thing.
It's tough because the Bible is an interpretive piece.
Right.
And it's very easy to, verse by verse.
But it's straightforward, though.
Yes. I think that's why it's important to, and I think this is why even Jesus did it, is meditate on God's word.
Yep.
I think he did almost daily.
Yep.
Because it's very easy to, obviously, even Satan did it with Jesus, like we talked about before. Like he knew the word, and it's easy to twist it and turn it, right, to make it sound like what the word is supposed to mean. But then if you really understood the word, and Jesus did, obviously, he meditated on it daily and prayed on it and really sought to understand it and seek that wisdom from it. So he knew what the meaning of the verses really meant.
Right.
So again, it's interpretive, but I think that's why it's important to really understand the Bible on your own.
Yep. And become a pro. Become a pro. There are some Louis Vuitton fakes that are really good.
True.
But if you work for Louis,
you'd know.
The
You'd
manufacturer,
You'd be able to
the
spot
creator.
it. Yeah. It's
easy to spot.
Right.
Some of them are good at making fakes.
Yeah, kind of like a false prophet, eh?
Right. They good at making fakes.
Yeah.
To make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
To make a little bit of money off of people who don't know what the real thing is. Or they know what the real thing is and they refuse to accept or pay the price to get the real thing. They just want to they like their Christianity on sale. I come every Sunday. My pastor reads the Bible for me. He recaps it for me. I go home. Instead of actually going in and putting the work, reading the word every day, taking some classes, you know what I mean?
Meditating on his word.
Meditating on his word. They do Christianity on sale. They do
Wow.
They do. It's bold. I'm sorry, but it's Christianity
bold, a little controversial.
On sale. It's a little controversial.
We may get some more haters on TikTok.
But it's Christianity on sale. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's the knockoff Louis of Christianity. And they want it easy. They want it cheap. But you got to pay that price if you want to follow him and be a disciple and disciple other people. You got to pay that price. It don't come cheap. So that's the
good.
Point I'm trying to make. That's the point I'm trying to make, man. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. And it wasn't intended to be easy.
No. That's true. Nothing in this world that was just so easy and gifted never came at a price.
Right.
You can think all the way back to Adam and Eve, and like the easiest thing to do
was to bite that apple.
That
was the easy thing.
It was harder to actually turn away from the temptation. It was harder for them to actually they had everything else but one tree. They had the whole world but one tree. And it was so hard to resist that one tree. And it was so easy to take that one bite.
Yep. Lies are easy. The truth is hard.
Lies hurt, but the truth kills.
Yep.
From the wise poet, Drake.
Right? Because what did the serpent tell them? They told him lies.
Yep.
And God was the truth. They turned from the truth to lies and sin. It's the two Adams. That's what we call it. So we're learning in class. The two Adams. There was two Adams created.
What?
The first Adam, and then Jesus was the second Adam. The first Adam sent us into sin.
Wow.
For thousands and thousands of years.
And the second Adam delivered us from it.
God learned.
Oh.
Even God learns.
Wow.
He said, I'm going to make some tweaks to the second one that I make. They're the only two people. Right. They're the only two people to ever exist that were divinely created.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. Like that didn't have a mom and a father, mom and father. Right.
Well, Mary was his human mom.
I know, right? But like that didn't come from her.
From conception.
Yeah.
Right? There were two divinely created people. Mm-hmm. One sent us into sin and one saved us from sin. It says in the Bible that any man hung from a tree is cursed. Right?
What does that mean?
So this is so crazy, bro. Any man that hangs from a tree is cursed. Jesus hung from a cross made out of wood, which is from a tree. So if Jesus is cursed, what? That's what I thought. Wait, what? Jesus is cursed? But what did Jesus do first before he hung up on that tree? He literally became sin. He took from the man that never sinned in his life, he took all of our sin and became it, then hung himself up on that tree to curse sin for the rest of his life. For eternity.
Whoa, I got chills.
For eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the day that death died and sin died. Which is so crazy. Isn't it?
Meaning that we aren't tied down to sin. It does not mean that sin doesn't exist. It still is.
We're not tied down to it no more.
But we're not tied down to it. Yes.
He debt paid. What Adam did thousands and thousands of years ago, Adam number 2 came and paid the debt.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
Sure is.
I looked that up the other day and I was like, this is wild. And I'm like, I'd never even heard that verse before. Any man that hangs from a tree is cursed. But
there's so much in the Bible that I think it's something that you can learn and every single day for the rest of your life, and you will still be learning up until the last day. Just wow.
Right.
That's wild. I don't think you could ever be the master of the Bible. I think the only one is God. Because at the end of the day, I don't think you'll ever be able to fully grasp everything.
Right. So isn't that wild, man? That's absolutely insane. So that was just some stuff that I learned.
Good stuff.
God's grace is crazy, y'all. Let's wrap up. You know, we end every podcast with that Bible verse. What is it?
Do you know what it is? Let's do a quiz. It's in the book of Psalms, verse 121. Verses 1 through 2. Wow, good job. Great work.
Got it.
Do you know the verse?
The life he lived in sin. Okay,
all right. I lift my eyes up to the mountain. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Lookup Pod. We love you guys. Thank you so much for all the support. It really means a lot.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
Hey.